In this episode of The Heart of Teaching Music, Grammy Award-winning music educator Annie Ray.
Thank you for modeling bravery for your kid. Thank you for modeling how to make bad sounds before you make good sounds. Like, you have no idea what you just showed your child of like how much work it takes to play this instrument. And it's not a natural talent. It's not something that comes innately. It's such a beautiful learning sphere.
Hi, I'm Julia Baumanis.
And I'm Scott Edgar. Welcome to the Heart of Teaching Music.
Because without people, there is no music. This space is dedicated to the stories behind the sound.
Stories of identity, belonging, and the courage to make a difference through music.
Join us as we welcome leaders in music and music education who share their journeys, their challenges,
and what it truly means to teach, connect, and lead in our profession. Together, we'll explore why music matters and discover the true power of music for all. We would like to thank the episode sponsor, GIA Publications. How often do we get to start a show by saying Grammy Award winner? Folks, today we have the 2024 Grammy Music Educator Award winner, Annie Ray. Annie, welcome to our show.
So excited to be here. Thank you for having me. We're going to have a fun time.
100%. My goodness. You know, you and I have hung out a few times. We run in similar circles. But until I read your bio, I didn't realize how you truly epitomize music for all.
Yeah, I like to dabble in several different things and keep myself busy. But yeah, it's just a gift to be a part of all of it. And it's one of those things that I feel lucky every opportunity I have to work with the different groups that I do.
We're going to explore all those different groups, but we start our podcast with the same question for every single guest. What is the heart of teaching music to you?
Well, actually, that's a really good question for my phase of life right now. Like, it might be a little bit of a longer answer, but I'm a classically trained musician. I have been since I was 3 years old in my family. And I've been going through this revelation with myself where I realized I don't think I ever found music for myself, even though I got really great at replicating exactly what people asked of me to do. And so the heart of teaching for me lately has been finding music for myself through my students in the way I approach the teaching, in the way I approach trying to create students who are not afraid to be seen trying. So for me right now in this place of my life, that's what the heart of music teaching is.
Oh my gosh. And I think, we've spoken about this on this podcast with a few guests, that music can fall into the pit of being correct, of being interpreted, of taking the black dots on the white page and putting them out in a space of correctness, as opposed to creativity and personalization. And exactly what you just started to get to there, Annie. If you could speak just a little bit about how that journey for you has influenced anything from your quality as a teacher, which we know is exceptionally high, and maybe your students' experience.
I had this moment when I was teaching. I come from Texas music education. Like, that's where I come from. That's what I thought I wanted. That's what I thought my career was going to be. And when my husband won his job in the Pershing Zone, we moved up here to Virginia. Next thing I know, I'm going from teaching secondary school to teaching 5 elementaries for 30 minutes once a week, if we're lucky, and then going with them through the middle school and the high school. And I'm so lucky I get to teach the students. Like, I started in 4th grade. I'm writing their college applications and stuff and sending them off, and just getting to experience that full gambit of things and watching them grow. I have learned so much from them. Even I hope that they've learned an ounce from me, from what I have learned from them about like what it means to, like I said before, not to be afraid to be seen trying. I'm not trying to create the next Yo-Yo Ma, I'm trying to create like fundamentally good people who are lifelong musicians. And that doesn't necessarily mean, trying for the grade 6 rep and just like throwing down what I've told them to, but allowing them to approach repertoire that they're able to facilitate and make musical and interpret themselves. So it's been a huge journey, and it's one that will continue, I know, for the rest of my life. But yeah, I'm so lucky that life took me in an incredible detour.
Just a follow-up to that, it's so interesting that all of our guests that we've talked to so far talk about music being this path that was laid out before us in a specific way, and we thought we were going to walk that path, and then it completely changed. It branched out to do a bunch of different things, and life happens and all that. So it's been interesting talking to every single one of our guests, and they all have the same experience. And they also talk about the learning process and the musical process being a never-ending thing. And I was just thinking about your different groups that you get to work with, a lot of which you've created, like your Crescendo Orchestra. And I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about how these different pathways of learning and teaching and understanding music for different populations has impacted like whatever path you thought you might be on.
That's like the best thing of it is like life is so unexpected. Like it just can pull you wherever you want. And it's so easy for us to like stay staunch in like, our Western musical training and stuff. Like it's intense. So the interesting part of it is like I come from a whole music family. So it's not just me. Like my mom's a musician, my cousins are musicians and professional musicians. And like one of my degrees is in harp performance. And so to go from that and thinking that I'm able to interpret something and thinking that I was able to find pieces in music to myself to like suddenly realizing like, no, like I can't even, improvisation, for example, is something that I'm deathly afraid of. And so I push that in my own teaching of like, no, we have an improvisation unit and we do it every single year and we work through it. And I try to bring in people that I'm going to learn from as much as the students are going to. But I think for my own career-wise, like it's just impacted things where I want everybody to experience the freedom and the joy that music has given me and the joy and like the fundamental connection that music has given me, right? So there's nothing like playing a phrase perfectly like with an ensemble and saying something together as a group. I think it's such a lost art that the majority of our human population does not get to experience. So a lot of my groups have come from that idea of fundamental community, of connection, of being a unifier. So for example, like we have like my Crescendo Orchestra, which you had mentioned before, which is my orchestra for students with significant and severe disabilities. I also have students with significant disabilities who are enrolled in my general education courses as well. And then I know we're going to get to this too, but our parent orchestra, which annually teaches 250 caregivers in Fairfax County how to play their kids' instrument for the first time. So a lot of these little bits and pieces have come from that journey.
Annie, so beautiful with what you're doing with Crescendo. I can imagine, though, that was a journey for you to feel comfortable or even prepared to be able to facilitate that orchestra. I don't know your background, so maybe share a little bit, but I can imagine so many of our listeners are thinking, there's no way I could ever do that. I don't have a background in special education. So what was that journey like for you?
I mean, again, it's been the most fundamentally freeing thing for me to come and break music down to the smallest amount. And that's the interesting thing for us is again, as classical musicians and stuff, we're afraid to leave our box. We're afraid to leave what we know because we're afraid of things not being perfect. We're afraid of like not showing a polished thing on stage or reaching towards the end goal. And Crescendo is this like fundamental reminder of like, that's not what music is nor what it's for. Like it's 100% about the in-betweens. And I talk about this a lot with groups I go and work with, but when music education was first founded in public schools, we led with product, right? We led completely with product, and it makes sense why we did, right? Like to show our worth of like equalizing it to a standardized test score or to like a sports thing or something like that. It's the game, We lost what's most important to us is the process, what's happening between the notes and rhythms on the page. And so how Crescendo started was during COVID. My husband was renovating our whole house. And so it's really hard to teach when there's a sledgehammer coming through you at the wall. And so I was teaching from the school at the time. And I reached back into kind of my transformation as a teacher, like going into the elementary level when in 2017, I had two twin brothers placed into my general education orchestra with intellectual disabilities and was not given an IBP, was not given a heads up. And we were just in survival mode. And I felt like I was completely failing these two boys. And then I pulled them after class one day and I realized that they actually knew everything I was teaching them. They just were not able to show me in the moment because of how overstimulating the class was. And so their mom started coming in the morning before school. She is an incredible woman and she started joining strings club and playing alongside of them. And so she could go home and teach them herself. She actually ended up becoming a founding member of my parent orchestra. And from there, it just kind of grew. So that little seed was planted in 2017. And then in 2020, during COVID, the students with significant disabilities were brought back first. And so they were here at school. I was here at school. And I had a whole year. I just got to sit in their special education classrooms and watch their teachers teach. So I had a whole year of watching and getting taught by these special education teachers, occupational therapists, physical therapists. And I took that combined with my own mother's general education curriculum, because she's a general music teacher, and my orchestra pedagogy, and we slapped it together. And that's what we got with Crescendo. And it changes every year. And that's what I tell people all the time is there is this fear of like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm not a special education teacher. Guess what? What I learned that year is everything they are doing is exactly what we're doing in the music classroom. It just has different words. It just has different labels on it. It's all about breaking things down to the smallest level and then building it back up. So you actually do have the training. You just don't realize it.
You have the training, but maybe not the vocabulary.
Exactly.
And it's not difficult to learn that vocabulary. We all have a mutual friend, Alice Hamill, who is like the person and the go-to, like when I'm like, okay, Alice, how would I use this technique, but translate it in vocabulary that's appropriate for this type of student, this type of learner. So I think that's really empowering that you bring that up. I remember hearing one of your talks and you talked a little bit about the Suzuki method and how parent involvement is so important in that. And even from like your upbringing and a couple of our other guests, we all reference, even like my mother's an educator, and we all reference that there has been either like a family member who is either an educator like by profession or an educator by like culture. Maybe they were like a leader in their community. So can you talk about the parent part of the Suzuki method that you talk about in your teaching and training? Because I think it's important for teachers to hear about different ways to involve the parent community because it truly does take a village.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that post-COVID didn't come back. Like we have a lot of like, growing up, if you think back to it, I remember my mom volunteering in my classroom, my elementary classroom and coming and helping. And that's just not a reality of where life is right now for a multitude of reasons, whether it's cost of living, whether it's time, or with students with significant disabilities, it's advocacy fatigue a lot of the times too. And it's not malicious. It isn't at all. The reason our booster programs are all diminishing is not because of lack of parent interest. People are just spread too thin. But parent orchestra remains this odd anomaly where this isn't the case, where there is a lot of parent involvement and stuff too. So to zoom out, for those that don't know, the Suzuki pedagogy is just this very heavily string-based pedagogy. We have the parent-teacher-child relationship in the triangle, and all three parts have to show up equally in order for a student to be successful. And the reality is in public teaching, we've completely neglected that parent side otherwise than being like, hey, can you bring bags of chips, to Jimmy's rehearsal so everybody can eat? And like, they're just not a part of the student's education and stuff. So to create a strong program, you need to really nurture that parent side, that caregiver side. And it can be through something like parent orchestra. Or if the reality is with my population of students, I have 96% of our students are considered economically disadvantaged. A lot of the parents cannot show up for a lot of real life reasons. And so the school has to step in and fill that parent void. So what does that look like? How do we get creative with filling that parent thing? But again, parent orchestra is this odd anomaly where I have a wait list. Like there's a 250 parent group, but then there's a wait list in addition to that of these things blowing up. So it's been fun to go and work with non-music education specific groups and talking about why does this model work? Why are parents engaged in this, but they're not involved in volunteering for Timmy's, math night or something? Like what is different about parent orchestra?
What do you think is different about it? Because I think that's really important. Like you said, people are not wanting to be involved. They're just really spread thin. So what do you think makes it special, I guess?
I think it's the ability to be really bad at something again and having these parents show up and they show up in such an authentic way. I love seeing the dad that comes, he's like a 6'3", burly guy, and he has his daughter's quarter-size violin to the first rehearsal. He's like, I'm over here to learn how to play this fiddle, like nothing makes me more excited than that dad entering in and then he's like, I actually need to get a bigger instrument than this.
Right.
But I think music again is something so fundamentally human to us. And these parents are like, this is an opportunity to do something that I missed out on when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
But once they get plugged in, it's just the same with our programs, right? It's kind of addicting. It's kind of all laughing and failing together. Then, the one outgoing parent who's like, hey, I'm going to go out for drinks after. Who wants to go with me? And then they go. And then suddenly parents who as a parent as myself, we can feel super isolated. Suddenly they're not anymore. They have a community. And the cool thing about Fairfax County. It's the 9th largest school district in the country.
Mhm.
And we have parents from schools that are only 13% economically impoverished down to my school, again, 96%
Mhm.
considered economically disadvantaged. And they're all here at Parent Orchestra. Like they're all there and they're friends and they would have never met otherwise.
Yeah.
So again, like I hate to be, cheesy about it, but it's just music. It's just something fundamentally about music that's different. And so when I do go work with these groups who are like, well, how do we get these parents into math night? I want to be like, have you considered having them play the violin? Like, you can't do that. It's about like creating authentic engagement moments for people to plug in.
Mhm.
And also because Parent Orchestra started with 30 parents in 2018, and all of them were there because I invited them individually and by name. And that's what you have to do now with people.
Mhm.
Same with students. We have to see them as individuals and we have to call them by name and we have to harass them into showing up. But the payoff is so worth it.
Annie's so gorgeous, individual by name. Some of the work that I've done in the past is on adult education. And I'm sure the strategies that work for kids, pedagogy, very different than the strategies that work for adults, andragogy. I mean, Julia and I teach adults. They're 18 and 22-year-olds, but they're adults. What are some lessons learned about teaching adults?
2 things. One, they're not actually that much different than their kids.
Mhm.
Like, my favorite story is I was teaching this kid like earlier in the day, a 4th grader. Okay, we're going to put one finger down. We're going to transform the note D to E. It's magic, blah, blah, blah. And the kid like literally reaches over with their right hand and like puts one finger down on the fingerboard instead of the left hand. And I was like, what? And then their mom did the same thing that night at Parent Orchestra. I was like, is this hereditary? Like, what in the world? That is so fun to see. And then 2, like it's challenging with adult pedagogy because you can move quicker, yet you have to also move slower. It's different things and different pacings that you have to do things for and finding kind of that line. But the biggest thing is they've lost, in a lot of ways, like learning how to be bad at something. They've lost that ability to fail. And so we lose parents, kids that go across the year because they're busy and everything. But I always thank the parents who stay to the very end of the year and do their performance of like, thank you for modeling bravery for your kid. Thank you for modeling how to make bad sounds before you make good sounds. Like you have no idea what you just showed your child of like how much work it takes to play this instrument. And it's not a natural talent. It's not something that comes innately. So I don't know. It's such a beautiful learning sphere. And the best part of it is we have 15 teachers who teach in this group now. Since we have so many parents, we get to watch each other teach. So it's beneficial for us too to have this experiential professional development where we get to watch each other and be like, oh, that's genius. I've been doing this wrong my whole life. Thank you.
It's a learning lab. Oh my gosh, I'm jealous. I would love if we could have that.
I want to be in your orchestra.
Come anytime. If y'all are in the area, I'm going to force you into this now. Be like, hey, saw you're in the area. Let's do this thing.
Let's take a quick break.
This episode is sponsored by GIA Publications. GIA is a leading publisher of music education resources. From music play for infants to beginning band and strings methods, college-level texts to music aptitude tests, books from leading voices in music education to top-notch recordings, GIA has something for you. Visit giamusic.com to learn more. giamusic.com.
Hey, HOTM family. Do you have a comment, a general question, or even a question for a specific future guest? Great, because you could be a part of a future episode. Visit musicforall.org/podcasts for a list of future guests. Then all you have to do is click the Ask a Question button. We may include your voice on a future episode. Again, to record your question, just go to musicforall.org/podcasts and click the Ask a Question button. Let's rejoin our conversation.
Annie, you just said something gorgeous. You said modeling bravery. And I think we need more models for bravery in our world, especially today, especially for our students to be able to see that. That's gorgeous. And you've had such an opportunity to be a model for so many in our field, and were thrust into a beautiful spotlight because of the Grammy Award that you received last year. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Wild, unexpected, incredibly humbling. Never thought in a million years like that would happen. And I was postpartum with my second baby at that time. And so it kind of like really came out of like left field and like out of the blue. I mean, the award has given me such an opportunity and a platform to share why music is so important to non-music education folks. Like the Grammy name really gives us that avenue to open those conversations, like with Department of Education, with a larger thing. So I don't take lightly the responsibility and opportunity it's given us to have that voice. But the award means everything, but even more, I had a student who actually was the one who like compiled a lot of the videos and then put it together. And to have a student articulate even an ounce of what you hope you're trying to teach them and watch it come across, that is the greatest gift. Like that means more than the award ever will. But the funniest thing, I always love to tell people the story, is they called to tell me that I was the winner. And like both of my girls were absolutely like losing it at the time. Because it's like a 4-month-old and like a 2-year-old at the time, right?
Yeah.
They're just like, everyone's melting down. Harvey Mason Jr. from the Grammys is calling. He's the Grammy CEO. And calling and telling me that I won. And he's so sweet. He goes, your girls sound so excited for you. And I'm like, they sure do. And everyone's just like losing it. My husband's like, like trying to like pull them out together. The conversation was like a minute long. And like next thing I know, like I'm off the phone and I'm like, what just happened? But like it was just like incredible juxtaposition because life just keeps going.
Yeah.
Life just keeps going. It's just this blip in time, this thing that we keep talking back to, you know, of like life taking you in these random weird directions. And next thing I know, here I am.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, life keeps going. I wonder, there's going to be a lot of music education students listening to this one in particular. And I often try to explain, and Scott does the same thing to our college students who are so in their head. They're so worried about getting that degree and making sure that jury's good and doing that next senior recital. And I wish for them so much that they could see beyond these incredible like checkpoints in their life, but that life keeps going. So perhaps like if you have some advice for them while we have you, I think that would be empowering just to be like, okay, like understand these are important, but like, I can't wait for you to see the next stuff that's going to happen.
And that's the exciting thing for us is we're like, you have no idea like how much more there is to come. Like, I'm so excited for you. And when my students go off to like music school, I'm like, I cannot wait for you to take your first music theory class and realize like we only scratched the surface. And I always get a message every year where the student goes, it goes so deep. I'm like, isn't it great? It's amazing. Well, those milestones are so important, right? We learn so much, I think, life lessons through those important cycles, like through the stress. And it's so easy to lose perspective of that and like want to just get over with, like just get it done. But I would just kill to go back and like just sit and audit some classes and just sit and just like be in the space and enjoy it versus like worrying about that next test.
Same,
you know?
girl. Same.
But I think it's so important, like of actually like sitting in the cycle of sitting in the stress and learning how to navigate that and feel lucky with the stress of it.
So you talk about life still going, Annie, and we know, congratulations, you have a new little one on the way and another life milestone for you and your beautiful family. So maybe tell us a little bit about another thing that you are so passionate about, and that's motherhood and music education, because I know we have so many people in the field who are either supportive spouses or mothers in the field and really sort of struggle with that work-life balance and how the role at home balances the role at school. A little bit about what that's looked like for you in this organization.
Man, I'm glad that you brought this up. And yeah, we're expecting our third baby any day now. And for those people listening, I've never claimed to be smart. I've claimed to be stubborn. I claim to be stubborn, but no, we're super excited to welcome another little Ray into the clan, the family the dynamic. And yeah, motherhood and music education came out of like a very isolating time. Like it's interesting, like with the Grammy and everything, like it was so overwhelmingly beautiful, like the response and people reaching out and this ability to connect with everybody. But I was postpartum. I was really struggling actually with postpartum depression, like dealing with this and feeling a lot of weight of the world. I'm also like trying to show up for my family, trying to show up for my program, trying to show up for this new community and this voice and sending it out. And so Motherhood and Music Education was born out of this. One of my best friends in the whole world and former co-teacher, forever work wife of mine, like had her baby at the same time. And we just started like, there's so much leaning on each other of like, oh, well, I have this resource pre-made. You can use this. You can use this. And like a problem solving back and forth. And I realized so much of why caregivers burn out in our field is because of lack of pre-made resources, is because of lack of support, of the fact that we are in a silo. We are a singleton at schools, you know, or split between multiple schools. So in education sphere, we have a much more intense microscope than say, a math teacher or something like that who has like a whole team and a curriculum behind them. We are the program in a lot of ways, you know? So Motherhood and Music Education was born out of it being kind of a resource hive mind instead of like, it's very solutions-based organization for all parents and all caregivers of like, oh, you need last minute sub plans? We got it for you. Like, you need a pump schedule? We got you. You want to hear about like how hard it was in the 5th trimester? I thought tri meant 3, but apparently it's 5 because you have your 4th trimester of postpartum and then the 5th trimester of coming back to work. Like, it's a lot. Like, we have those pre-made things for you. Our big goal right now, the Motherhood and Music Education group is a little quiet right now because we are securing funding. We're very excited to make pre-made maternity leave and bereavement leave and long-term plans for teachers. So the track will be 2-set-minded where it's either with a music sub or a non-music sub. So you can just plug your info in and off you go. And the resources will just be made free since we are getting external funding for it. So that's our goal, is to just be solutions-based, to be an organization of where you lean on. And we're not the only group doing this. There's other caregivers and parents who are out there and really rallying behind it. So give them a shout out, give them a look. And you're not alone. You're not alone. And it's, if you want to stay in the classroom, that's not the wrong answer either. That was a huge challenge for me as people, when I came back, were, oh, I didn't think you'd come back. And that's a diminishing comment in its own right, you know, of, because then you start thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't have, like, what was wrong with me? You know, like, am I wrong for wanting to have a career? Like, no, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with fulfilling all the parts of who I am.
And so many parts of your identity, your personal identity. Annie, if we want to find more information about motherhood and music education, where do we go?
Type it in online, literally motherhoodandmusiceducation.com. Boom, it'll pull up for you.
Boom.
You'll find our website. Type us in on the Facebook group. Like I said, right now, we've kind of gone quiet, but that's on purpose because everything we want to do is very intentionally done. The community and space we're trying to develop, again, is very solutions oriented. So please join us there, though, because we're hoping this summer to really ramp things up when I'm trapped to the couch and wanting to twiddle my thumbs somewhere. Like, that's the game plan.
Fabulous. Annie, one of the first things you said on our episode was about your ensembles being a space for community and coming together and having that sense of belonging. One of our favorite parts about this podcast is that we reach out to some friends and we want them to ask you questions. So we reached out to a person who we all know and love, Cooper Ford, who has a question for you.
Oh, Cooper.
Hello, friends. Cooper from North Brunswick, New Jersey. It's where I teach high school. You know, I talk to a lot of my students who love to play music. They love to have music in their life, and they talk about how life-giving it is. Yet, at the same time, when students graduate and then they go into their adult lives, they stop playing. So I wanted to get your thoughts on, one, why that is and how we can cultivate more of a culture of play after high school. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I love Cooper. He's so great. He has such great energy.
He's the best.
What a nice surprise. I was just in New Jersey. We're doing their MBA and I get to hear his voice again. Okay, that's a good question. A very good one. And I think a lot of it, again, comes from what we're expected, quote unquote, to do, like as directors, right? We're expected to put on this like really polished performance of whatever grade rep and have this like performance on stage, right? Like the end goal in mind. And so a lot of my teaching has turned from being very teacher-centered on the podium to being very student-centered. So the core of my teaching philosophy is about student autonomy at this point. And we do a lot of rehearsals where I'm not on the podium like the whole time and we're in alternative seating. And we do something called guided sectionals, which again, I had developed with my wonderful Alexandra Blaine, my co-mom for Motherhood and Music Education, of like, what if we had the students going through the whole sheet? A lot of my program is all about student autonomy and about using something called guided sectionals. So the students have very specific expectations laid out for them on how they are supposed to go through things and practice strategies I have set up for them. And that whole time, I'm circulating the room and working with students one-on-one and breaking things down with them, teaching them how to be independent learners. And that's kind of, I think, where people, us as directors, kind of can lose the plot a little bit, right? Of we're not supposed to be actually creating like the polished performance on stage. We are, that's the end goal, but we have to create independent musicians first. So when students leave our programs, they oftentimes just don't know how to engage with the music community besides having a teacher spoon feed them the notes and rhythms and spoon feed them the rehearsal process. So that is a part of it. Another very intentional part I do is with every student who graduates, I make them set up a plan with me on how they're going to keep music in their life.
Wow.
So it's their final exam as a senior. And wherever they're going to college or where they're going on to post-secondary things, like we sit together and we find what groups they're going to reach out to, how they're going to get plugged in. And I make them email them in front of me and do it to start that first hurdle. Because again, it's this fear of entering into something unknown, of taking that first step, of taking that initiative. And if we can take that fear barrier down, we're also giving them the gift of a beautiful community to plug into and built-in friends wherever they're going. So that's my small little gift they don't realize I'm giving them. But I know a lot of them have figured it out many years down the road.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge gift. That's not a small little gift. And what I loved about that so much, Annie, is that one of the things that we brag about here on the show is the importance of student agency, student empowerment. That's a central theme to everything we talk about. But I think oftentimes people miss the supports, that this isn't go into sectionals and figure it out. You had a very thoughtful way of setting them up for success. So powerful.
And we do it often. Like if you come in my classroom, it's very rare we sit in a traditional orchestra seating. We do it once a week for sure. So it's either on Thursday or Friday since we're on block schedule. But the rest of the week, we're in these weird different pods or a big arc or having mini lessons with me or these sorts of things. And it's really awesome getting to watch these students start to teach each other and to build these spaces. And then like I'll find that they've been calling random sectionals on their own, like and doing all these things. Or my favorite thing that's grown from it this year is we had a student, after she heard me go on a diatribe about how much I love busking and like busking culture, she started her own Adams busking club. And so her group now go out into the Annandale community and they just play like in the area, not even necessarily for money. They'll just like play at the boba shop or they'll play at, a bakery that they wanted to go to, and engaging now with the community. And it's 100% student run, which is so cool.
That's amazing.
Annie, I have one more question for you. And before we jump into that, I do want to thank the episode sponsor for today's episode, GIA Publications. And through them, Annie, and your work with you and the other Grammy Music Educator Award winners, you have a project coming up. Tell us a little bit about that.
I do. I decided I didn't have enough things to do.
As do we all, friend.
Yes. I think that's like, again, like the beauty of like, I think music people, our minds go everywhere, But again, like I keep on coming back to like the Grammy being such a gift. And like part of it is the fact that like I have these incredible other educators at the tips of my fingers, or in our group chat to like connect with and reach out to in the hive mind. And I had a moment where I was like, what? Like people all need to hear this stuff. Like this is great. This is gold. And so we're writing a book together, a big collaborative book with all of the other Music Educator Award winners. And we're so excited for it and to get to engage with that. And it's been fun. Like I love writing and it's a skill that I had to put aside for like a few years. And now I get to engage in like very frequently. So it's been fun.
We cannot wait to see it and to bring that group of people together. We see them once a year, but then to be able to have you all together for one conversation in a book, I just can't wait to see that, friend.
Mm-hmm.
So much of what you have talked about today and have done in your life very much is music for all. But for you, what does music for all mean to you?
Yeah, everything in my career and every opportunity I've had, if you notice that we've talked through it, is everything has been about collaboration, has been with other people. None of these things that have happened have been me or me alone. It's been beautiful communities and learning from the people that come before us. And so music for all it's fundamentally is about connection. Like that's all it is. And us putting down like our hyper fixation on like the end product and focusing on the process. I'm lucky I've personally gotten to engage in all of that. And I hope every person I've gotten to work with gets to take that away with them too.
That's really beautiful. And I just want to thank you again for your time. I know that you are so busy doing all the things that we all do, but at an incredibly high level. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Any final thoughts before we sign off?
Yeah, I just want to thank you all for having me. And I want to thank our mentors in our communities and everyone that's come before us in music. Like, we don't do this alone. Like, none of us do this alone. We've all learned from someone who comes before us and the community that we have. And I want specifically, like, for Pair Orchestra, I want to give credit to my own mentor, Brian Coatney. He teaches down at Wiley High School. He's a past TMEA president. who is the one who initially brought this idea forward. And this last year, I've gotten to present alongside of him and with a bunch of different communities and education centers and us coming together to do that. And I'm just so grateful to my mentors and to those who came before us and for what we get to do now today.
Annie, you are a master teacher, and you have used your platform as a teacher and as a Grammy Award winner to just share your brilliance. And we are honored to have you as a guest on this show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We would like to thank the episode sponsor, GIA Publications. For Music for All, I'm Scott Edgar.
I'm Julia Baumanis.
And this has been The Heart of Teaching Music.